Good evening and welcome back to our meeting. We had closed session, and during closed session, we did discuss conference with district legal counsel in anticipation of litigation, but no action was taken at that point in time. So we are now back into open session, and well, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done, sir. Thank you. So we are going to go into our reports and recognition part of our agenda right now, and I think I begin, so I believe I need a clicker.
Madam President, we might have missed putting this on the agenda with Ms. Tina out, but we typically do a quick summary of our workshop.
Oh, yes, correct.
And so, Mrs. Reed, if you want to give a summary of the first two items, and then Dr. Frazier can do the other two.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pulver, Madam President. We were really honored earlier this evening. The We Are Weaver community from Weaver Elementary joined us for their student and school board report presented by Dr. Todd Schmidt. They had a wonderful showing of parents, had a beautiful song sung by the Weaver Choir, and they also recognized their hero of the heart, a longtime parent of the Weaver community, Mrs. Stacy Russell, who's had children at Weaver spanning 20 years now. So it was wonderful to see them here tonight.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Reed. Appreciate that. And it was very celebratory. And we also, Dr. Frazier, I was going to do it for you, but I'm not going to now.
You can if you'd like.
No, I'm
Thank you, Madam President. We also were fortunate enough to honor our Supervisory Employee of the Year, Tiffany Pennick, who also works she's our supervisor at the EDCC at Weaver Elementary. She's been with us for over 20 years and just is such a staple at in the Weaver community. Everybody knows her name. Her smile is infectious, and we want to just congratulate her on that award. And then also, we had an opportunity to recognize our classified employee of the year, Armando Gomez, who works in our IT department here at the district office, who not only is our district employee of the year, but has also been selected as our county employee of the year for our classified. So congratulations to both of those amazing employees.
And then lastly, during our workshop portion, Dr. Al Maharas, the Orange County Superintendent of Schools, graced us this afternoon to recognize both Lee Elementary and Los Alamitos Elementary for being named a National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence and for closing the achievement gap, a feat that I'm not sure another district has more than one, and we have two. So he gave a great tribute to them and a nice little plaque and trophy for them to bring back to their school site. So it was very much appreciated for him to come and recognize our two schools.
Wonderful. Thank you all. That was amazing. So I'm going to go into my president's report, and some of you may have recognized that I've been trying to address questions that I get in my president's report, but things were quiet the last couple of weeks. So we decided to look at the college and career fair that we had happen in the last, I think it was last Tuesday, so April 5th. And one of the things that I think is really important and that our district does amazing is that we really want to make sure that we are preparing children for the next step, whatever that next step may be for them. So for many, it is off to a college or a university. For some, it is JC. And then leading to a university. For some, it is career tech. For some of them, it is certificated programs that allow them to get into a trade or a business right away. And so we've got a lot of really incredible partnerships and opportunities to look at some of those things. So the College and Career Fair really wanted to highlight a lot of those different options for students as they start to think about what that next stage of their life is and what adulting looks like, right? So as they move on. So we've had relationships with community colleges, with a lot of STEM programs. And even talking to students about if they were thinking about they may want to play sport at a higher level and what that looks like and the requirements that you have to do to be able to get there. I love that there were business connections. I don't know if you have seen some of the student reports that we've had lately, but we've had some student business people that have been highlighted in things that they have done as well. So I think there was a lot of really great opportunity to look at that and work with the Vital Link to organize to help organize this program that it came out, and that is a 501c3 nonprofit partner of the district in helping us look at and have these different options. I don't know if any of the adults have ever gone to a career fair before to look at what options are out there and meet face to face with people that you may want to work with. Also college fairs as well, and to get an opportunity to also look at colleges that you may have not even thought of before. And I think they have some great opportunities as well. We also hosted they host multiple competitions for students each year, as well as our industry advisors to help our CTE. And I think that is one thing that I think a lot of parents sometimes really forget that we have in our district, and that we even have a bigger umbrella to go out to. If you really have a student that really is interested, there may be a way for them to even go to a different campus to be able to study something maybe under culinary arts or automotive construction. Yep, a whole bunch of. Yep, well, I think we do that here. So representatives of 52 colleges and university, as we talked about the NCAA, we get a chance to see our superintendent, Dr. Pulver here. He jokingly said to me, because I think he had an opportunity to try to use a orthoscopic, and I just 10 days ago had orthoscopic surgery, and so he said he could do it for me again if I wanted to, and he said no, it only took me like 15 times till I could get there. I'm like, okay, thank you, but no thank you. So there were a lot of really, I think, interesting and really hands-on things as well. And we had a panel of 3 experts who shared advice on how to get into careers in medicine and engineering and computers, and so really helping our students. Mrs. Gatuli, did you have a comment?
Yeah. Okay.
You want me to go back?
No, it was, I was just going to say is that this is the second fair that Vital Link has put on, and they had 250 people show up at the first one. And I want to do a shout out to our communication and information director. Nicole really pushed out there, and we had about 1,100 people who showed up. So I was very proud. And a lot of them, not all of them were college students, a lot of them were middle school. And you need to start thinking about these things sooner rather than later.
Thank you very much. That was awesome. Thank you for interjecting. And there it is, 1,100 attendees. I was not aware that was triple or quadruple what we had before. So also the military branches as well. I think that's a really good opportunity for students to be able, who are thinking about that, to explore and be able to have conversations in a really great environment as well. And 18 different career opportunities. And I know that many of us who are adults in the room would say that our career maybe found us more than we necessarily found our career. And so I really like that we have an opportunity for students to be able to explore that in a setting before they move forward. And then there were just a couple of quotes about from students. I know we got a lot of really positive feedback from this event, and so keep your eye out. I'm sure it is something that we will continue to do, and that your students will be able to participate in. And so I really appreciate the partnership that we have and the great event that it was. Any other board members want to say anything at this moment? Okay. Then we will move on with wonderful Will's report. We want to know what's going on, Will. Wonderful Will.
Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing? All right. Good evening, President Hill, esteemed board members, Dr. Pulver, Executive Cabinet, and community members watching in person or online. Today's word of the day is triskaidekaphobia. For those of you unfamiliar with this uncommon phrase, it's a very long word meaning the fear of the number 13. And while this is my 13th board report, I can assure you there is no triskaidekaphobia involved, but this is unfortunately my third to last report. But there isn't any time to waste, so let's drift on into lucky report number 13. Last board meeting was the day before open house, and I'll give a quick recap of the night. Starting at 5 p.m. was an informational night for 8th grade parents, which was then segued right into the actual open house event at 6. Teachers opened their doors for students and their families to ask questions or look at the hard work they've accomplished over the past year. Lucky individuals even got to see members of the board walking around and engaging with families, but I was fortunate enough to get a photo with the best-looking guy, Mr. Forehand. Besides just talking to teachers, guests were able to see performances by Los Al's jazz band and choirs. The night ended at 7:30, which put an end to the 2022 open house and the first open house in 2 years, in-person open house. Parents and students alike had another opportunity to learn more about school and future programs last week at the first career fair. This event took place at Mcauliffe Middle School, where over 60 colleges had booths set up for guests to wander. Also in attendance were 15 different companies, multiple trade school opportunities, and to keep young kids engaged, a Kona ice truck. This great event will, if what I'm hearing is true, take place yearly and is a great way to get students thinking about different options or of what to do after high school. And next slide. No worries. It's all good. I had some freestanding stand-up prepared, but, we'll save that for the next meeting. All right. Now, please forgive me for the delay, but 4 weeks later, it's my honor to report on Los Al's awesome winter formal. After being pushed out 2 months in early January, students flocked in droves to the Los Angeles Natural History Museum to experience this classy night. Many students went with dates like myself, but others chose to go alone or in large groups. Whatever the case was, the event had over 1,000 visitors in attendance, a record-breaking number. Now, I can tell you that after experiencing 2 formal dances, this is my favorite. The dance floor was a highlight for many students, having a giant fin whale skeleton hung above dancers with a radiating LED panel of lighting, making it seem as if it was swimming. But the dance floor is not for everybody, as many attendees found themselves at the karaoke stage singing some good but many bad renditions of popular songs. The night concluded at 11:30, but the 3-hour-long dance was an unforgettable night for everyone. Now, while I totally forgot to report on formal, one thing I'm not going to forget about was the epicness that was Griffin Games. This week-long competition ended on Friday with a field assembly where students had the opportunity to win points for their respective teams. Some of the games included dodgeball, a massive inflatable obstacle course, jousting, bungee running, spike ball, and other various activities. Students were given 40 minutes to play during their third period classes, and in the end, the red team was crowned victorious with 9,148 points. Griffin Games was adapted this year after a 2-year hiatus and will, from what I hear from student feedback, is a more inclusive competition where everyone can play and is here to stay. And just a week after Griffin Games was the most hilarious competition at Los Al, Mr. Griffin. This yearly competition puts Los Al's finest, funniest, and craziest boys against each other in a talent/pageant competition. This year had 6 candidates competing against each other. Some highlights included Alex Romo's ribbon dancing performance, Cole Parker's magic show, every contestant's swimsuit and muscle show, Nate Turley's bachelor-style rose ceremony, and of course, Alex Canizaro's epic choreographed lightsaber fight. The hilarious night combined all aspects of what makes a Griffin, and in the end, crowned Alex Canizaro as this year's winner. Now, tonight's athletic slide is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. And no, it's not because the Griffins continue to win every game, but because the boys' baseball team actually got to play at Angel Stadium. This once-in-a-lifetime experience pitted the boys against Esperanza High School, where they would play 9 innings in an MLB world-class stadium. The game ended in a tie, but the experience left many players with an experience they will never forget and remember for the rest of their lives. On the volleyball side of things, there is some major news of a new champion after 20 years. And yes, you heard that right. After 20 years, Los Al boys volleyball beat Newport Harbor. This momentous win was accomplished in 5 sets and led the team into their rival match against Edison in the days following. And of course, the boys won that game too, ranking them as number 1 for their league, and the 3rd year in a row they've done so. For girls softball this week, they've won their past 3 games with some pretty impressive scores. They won 9-4 against Centennial High School, 10-2 against Edison High School, and 10-2 against Marina High School. And last night, the team actually hosted Youth Night, where young kids had the opportunity to join the girls in their warm-ups and throw pitches. And lastly, it's my pleasure to report on boys golf. The team normally plays their matches at Old Ranch, but recently they've been able to practice at Navy Golf Course. They played their last match on April 6th against Edison and Fountain Valley, and actually played today against Peninsula Hills. While I don't know what the score was or what happened, it's no doubt the team did amazing, like they have already done for the rest of their season. Now, I'm a little late to the party, but if you've not heard the news, Show Choir competed a few weeks ago at the Grand Ole Opry for a national championship title. And it's no surprise here, but both the Sound Effects Choir and Soundtracks Choir were crowned national champions. This huge accomplishment is another trophy to add to the already massive collection from this unstoppable show choir and goes to show the drive and talent the program has. Unfortunately, they had their last performance this past week, putting an end to their season, but I don't think anyone's too sad after being crowned national champions. While choir was competing this past week, jazz was performing in the PAC. And it was not just Los Al Jazz. This Spotlight 2022 performance included the musical stylings of both Oak and Mcauliffe bands. This entire event was 3.5 hours, allowing future Griffins to connect with current students who will someday take their place. And lastly, awards don't seem to stop flowing from the art departments this week, as drama brought home many trophies from the California State Thespian Festival. Some major ones including winning 21 superiors, the most out of any of the 39 schools competing, and also having the largest amount of placements for the entire festival. This is the first Thespian Festival since 2019, and the drama program came out strong, absolutely destroying the competition. And lights, camera, action, because for this week's Teacher Time, we spotlight the always busy and energetic Mr. Brown, who is going to show us a little bit about some of the funniest students around campus. This is Mr. Brown's 2nd year teaching at Los Al, but if we're talking realistically here, it's actually his 15th. Now, he didn't start teaching when he was 9 years old. He's actually a Los Al graduate. Mr. Brown graduated in 2015 and proceeded to work in the film industry for 5 years. After a job opening magically showed up, and being a Griffin News alumni, he knew this was his calling. When he took over in 2019, the film and television program was at its low, only having 2 classes that were at 50% capacity. Since then, the program has prospered, having 3 full classes now and projecting to have 5 full classes next year. What made Mr. Brown fall in love with Mr. Griffin News was his own experiences in the program. He found his calling and friends in the class in the 2nd semester of his junior year and never looked back. Making it a personal goal to make sure all students feel welcome and confident in their skills, Mr. Brown sets up every student for success. He encourages students to make mistakes because it's better to learn now in the supportive environment of his classroom and perfect their skills for when they're on a Hollywood movie set. After 2 years at Los Al, Mr. Brown has already made a huge impact on students and the school as a whole. Griffin News is the talk around Los Al every Friday due to its funny and witty nature, which can trace its roots back to Mr. Brown. The future is bright for both Mr. Brown and his students, as this ever-growing program has real-world implications and has skyrocketed into one of the most popular classes taught at Los Al. Now, Griffin News is great, but the real magic of the class is the students, and today I'm spotlighting one of the biggest movers and shakers in the room, Lizzie Schmidt. Lizzie is currently a senior at Los Al and is one of the star members of Griffin News, a stage manager and an assistant director. But she was not originally this involved with the silver screen and the big stage, but Mr. Brown and her friends in the program convinced her. What she loves about Griffin News is that it combines all of the things she loves. She gets to be with her friends, be outdoors, collaborate with the group, and be a producer. Despite the long hours, sometimes waking up for a shoot at 3 a.m. and going to bed at 11 p.m., she still loves the class. But when she does have some time off, she loves to drive to Santiago Peak in her 1999 Jeep Wrangler to just sit and think about among the serene beauty of the mountains and trees. Griffin News has given Lizzie the skills to succeed in life. Whether it be communication skills, organizational abilities, she credits her good memories at Los Al to the time with her film and television friends. And as she moves into the next chapter of her life at college, she has a big decision to make, as she's been accepted to UCLA, Sacramento State, and the #1 film and television program in the nation at USC. Lizzie is heavily involved in all aspects of LoSal, whether it be academics, the arts, or even the career technical side. Her warm presence makes any conversation easy and radiates positivity into anything she's involved with. It's no doubt we'll see her name on the silver screen one day, but until then, congratulations on all the hard work, and hats off to you. And I hope everyone has a wonderful spring break and a safe week off for school. My next board report will be 2 days after spring break, so it might be a little short. But for now, that's all for this report, folks. Thank you for listening, and to those at home, thank you for watching. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Will. And I just want to make sure we are really making sure that everyone is aware that if you want to talk to speak during public comment, we need a card from you, and we had said that we wouldn't take them after the meeting had begun, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware. If you want to speak, please fill out a card. We will still take them at this point. Thank you very much. And Dr. Pulver, I'm going to hand it over to you, and Will's going to hand you the clicker.
Will already handed me the clicker, so thank you. Evening, esteemed members of the board. Madam President, the College and Career Fair was just fantastic, so I love that you highlighted that. What was amazing about it, too, is really that it was open to all ages. So this was really something we tried to even plant the seeds at elementary school, at our middle schools, at our high school, and it's really beyond just a college fair. It was certainly a career fair as well. When I was talking to some parents, the other thing that I think was pretty powerful about it is they have an app outside of it where as parents and students, they can connect with colleges, et cetera, directly through the app. And so that was a pretty powerful piece as well. Our first time doing it in this format. I think we had 4 different rooms at Mcauliffe and an outdoor space. And as you saw, it was pretty packed. So pretty exciting. And then, Will, my lucky number is 13, so I'm with you on this 13th report. So, although I did not know that word, I don't even know if I can remember it this right now. What's the word?
It's triskaidekaphobia.
Triskaidekaphobia. Yeah, no, I don't have that. That's because I'm the 13th child out of 15. So I always say 13 is my lucky number. So tonight, just a few things to share during the superintendent's report. You might notice that if many of us are trying to wear purple, it really is in recognition of April as being the month of the military child. And last year, we had a wonderful student of ours, the Kirkjian family actually, came to 2 different board meetings in April, really empowering us and encouraging us to honor the work and the sacrifice that students of the military families experience as they sacrifice for all of us and for our freedom. And so they had encouraged us last year to wear purple. And I thought, you know what, why not do that again here during our board meeting? And it was also reminded me of just some celebrations and ways that at Mcauliffe Elementary was also finding ways to do it. They're celebrating a week, but really the entire month. So it's not too late for any schools to really try to find ways to reach out and support our military families and students with military families. And so there's just a few of the activities that Mcauliffe Elementary is doing today and tomorrow and Friday, the remainder of the week, all week. But what I thought I'd just kind of highlight is that we've been really fortunate to have, we have the bases here within our district, over almost 7%, I think it is made up of military lands, federal lands here within the district. And so we have a lot of students as well, and recognizing those needs. The military has really invested in mental health as well, and I know that mental health has been a focus for us. The military has provided a mental health counselor at the elementary level, mostly at Mcauliffe, in addition to our mental health counselors. And then just a few months ago, they expanded that to our middle school. So we have an additional mental health counselor that is shared between Oak and Mcauliffe that is really supported by funding through the military to support military families and their mental health and wellness. This is in addition to the mental health counselors that we embrace and hire as a district. So just a great partnership there. And then I'm so pleased to be able to talk about the Pageant of the Arts. It has been a tradition at Mcauliffe Elementary for, I think this was the 39th Pageant of the Arts this year. It went on a pause, on a hiatus. I believe it was the week that we had closed schools down, or the very following, but I think it was going to be that week that they had to, all the students, the 4th and 5th graders who were presenting and all the artwork, they never got an opportunity. So it was on pause for a couple of years. And I had the great fortune to be able to watch the Pageant of the Arts. They did a student assembly that I was able to attend. And our Mcauliffe families fundraise for an art teacher that helps support this as well. But it's really a labor of love of staff in the community who come back. So these are pieces that the students have generated in years past. And then our 5th graders dance and perform and try to emulate pieces of the artwork. As you can see in the picture on the right, the students are trying to represent the images that you see directly within the painting. And then our 4th graders do a great job of kind of narrating and giving us a lot of technical background about the artist and about the life of the artist and the period of that time. And so this year, the artist that was featured is Lois Maylou Jones. I hope I pronounced her name there. I wanted to get a picture. Lois Maylou Jones. Thank you. I think I said Lewis, and thank you. It is Lois. So I got a picture that I just wanted to highlight there. But this was the beautiful artwork that our students created. This was one of the celebrations of our art pieces, and it was just a phenomenal event. Probably just a little bit over an hour, but it just brought so much joy. If you are interested, they'll be doing it again next year. It's the big one. It's the 40th. And so I just thought I would kind of highlight a little bit because it has been a hiatus for a few years. And then lastly, I thought I'd just give an update. Obviously, many of you may recall that we had heard conversations early in October that the governor, perhaps the legislature, was going to be potentially considering mandating the COVID-19 vaccine for students and for staff and make that predicated upon their enrollment for next year. And so the board, we spent a few meetings, both in December and in January, really having robust discussion, and we've heard from community members. And we passed a resolution that really stated that we believe that there should be personal, medical, religious, exemptions. I'm trying to think, was there one more? I can't remember. So we had done that before legislation had occurred, and then the California legislature is in that process. And since then, the legislature has instituted a preliminary bill called SB 871. Which is to mandate that would not provide exemptions. And so I just wanted to let update that I did send on behalf of the school district and the board, we sent a letter along with our resolution that we passed in January opposing SB 871 to Senator Pan. We also sent it to all of the Orange County legislators. So that's called the Orange County Legislative Delegation, Governor Gavin Newsom and Dr. Alamitos, who's the Orange County School Superintendent, but basically just saying that we advocate that any legislation regarding student or employee mandates for COVID-19 really allow for those personal, religious, and medical exemptions, and that currently the way that the SB 871 is written and authored, it denies those exemptions. And so we sent that off and uploaded it as well to the trailer, to the legislative bill. For as part of the public record, as the board had passed that. So just wanted to provide an update of where we left off since the legislation had occurred after we had passed the resolution. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pulver. We will now move on to board communications. And if Marlis is ready, let's have Marlis be able to go first since she is with us virtually.
Well, I actually plan to keep it very short because this Zoom connection seems very strange to me. I'll save some things for the next meeting. But when I want most of all to wish everybody a happy spring break. But my husband has said he won't pick me up at the airport unless I thank all of the Justin Padilla and Mr. Crockett and all the directors that were responsible for the gala, the Spotlight Gala. He went in my place and said it was absolutely the most fabulous concert and that he was completely awed by the way that
they incorporated all of the bands from the middle school on up, and how students would get up and play by themselves or in small groups, and they had the guest performers were working with them. And he said it was the most amazing night, and it was such. I said, you were up until almost 11 at a concert. I mean, you know, you're a senior citizen. And he said it was the best evening that he's had in a long time. And then he qualified, except for me not being there. He knew he'd be in trouble. But anyway, I just want to thank all of those responsible for that very special night on behalf of my husband and all the people in the audience that were so blessed by the gifts of those young musicians. So thank you, and happy spring break.
Thank you, Mrs. Davidson. Mr. Forham.
Yes, it's been really busy. I got to go to the Mcauliffe and Los Alamitos High School on walks, and the Sea Lions and Griffins are in good hands. I served lunch at Mcauliffe and Weaver, and round 3 will end of my nuts and bolts tour with Mcauliffe, and I think I'm going to do round 4. I enjoyed going to longevity at Oak and Los Alamitos High School and Lee to celebrate our 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35-year employees. Open house at Los Alamitos, Will referred to. And I got to go to Lee, where I have 2 grandsons, so that was very special for me. I participated in Lion Pride, honoring 7th graders this last time, 1 from each teacher. And character count awards at Weaver are always great. And this one was for kids with confidence. And how nice to recognize kids that do display confidence. Scott and I got to go to the Lee Olympics, right, Scott? Yeah, where they celebrated raising $100,000 for their program. Dr. Pulver was nice enough to take me to a swim meet, my first probably ever, and in that gorgeous pool. That was great. As always, I've been on Broadway. I got to travel this time to New York and see this jazz spotlight that Marlis just mentioned. Incredible. Then we had the candlelight celebration also for our Los Alamitos Orchestra, and it was a great event. Then Dr. Pulver's already mentioned, but I traveled to the Metropolitan Museum of Art to see the Mcauliffe Pageant of the Arts. Unbelievable. And I think even Dr. Gates said, and I agreed with him, it was the best student performance he had ever seen. And in my 40 years, it may have been the best I've ever seen. Shout out to our teachers. They're taking all kinds of trips with our 4th graders to Sacramento, giving up their time, and all the competitions that they go to for the arts, sporting events, on weekends. I mean, that's just over and above. So shout out to the teachers and advisors of those programs. Mcauliffe Abilities Awareness Week, and I just love their t-shirt. This district does such a nice job of celebrating Choose to Include, and it was great to see that. Yes, and a student did design that, so that's gone to my collection for next year, I'm sure. I liked one of the sayings that I saw at Mcauliffe that said, it's hip to respect and choose to include. So I thought that was great. And you mentioned Connor Brown, Mr. Will, and he was getting my kids shout out for what he does with those kids. Griffin News is one of my favorite news programs across any channel. And I like how it's now incorporating in there, you know, interviews. And he last week highlighted the ethnic studies, where he interviewed 5, no, not him, the teacher, Miss Avina, shout out to her, and the 5 reasons why they were encouraging other students to take this elective, such as builds confidence, see differences in others, being open-minded, understanding, and compassionate. Congratulations to Nina Ha, a student at Weaver. She won the first First place in the 18th annual National Haiku. This is a fourth grader at Weaver contest across the nation. And I also want to end by shouting out the neurodiversity program, which is similar to what Mcauliffe did at LAE, but there was a whole display of hearts. And the one that caught my eye the most was what one student wrote: differences are what make a person spectacular. And I totally supported that. I thought that was just a great way, a simple way to say all of us are good people no matter what our differences are. So thank you, Mrs. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Forehand. Mrs. Cattouli.
Thank you, Mrs. Hill. Yeah, this time of year, people get really busy. I'm going to actually start with a shout out to Lee Elementary PTA and their president, Lori Kamola. They actually were recognized by Orange County PTA as the outstanding PTA unit in all of Orange County. We have 28 school districts in Orange County. We have 9 PTAs just in LaSalle alone. So I can't even figure out the math, like in Capo and Saddleback, Santa Ana, Tustin, all the schools they have there. This is truly phenomenal. So and it's a lot of work, and I'm thinking it was Lori who had to fill out some hellacious form, and she did. So, but congratulations. I can't ever remember that happening in LaSalle before. It may have, but I cannot remember it. Real quickly, yeah, the Jazz Spotlight performance was wonderful. College and Career Fair, totally outstanding. And I really want to give Marianne Schaefer a big shout out. She is our career tech counselor at the high school, and she helped coordinate it and organize it. And I know next year it will be bigger and better. And they already were talking about how come Long Beach State wasn't there, and how come this person wasn't there. So it's going to even get better. And I just hope it gets to be an event that all of our families attend. I was able to participate in a very challenging ROP interview. ROP gives out scholarships to outstanding senior students every year. They're nominated by their teacher, and then I and other people have to interview these outstanding students and decide on one. So I did that. It's hard. Pageant of the Art was wonderful. I remember when, because I've been around a long time, I remember when they started it, and the whole concept between the Pageant of the Art was to take actual learning in the classroom, learning about the artist and the artist's life and their approach to producing their art. So that was like the research part of it. And then the whole physical thing of actually every student paints some part of that mural. And then they started getting, even bigger and better. And then let's get some music and let's get some dance. And to put the whole thing together, to me, it is such an authentic assessment, because the kids really learn about the artist, they produce the art, and they totally participate in it by singing and dancing. So kudos again to those teachers who spend hours doing that. And I know 3 retired teachers who that's their heart, and they come back every year and they do it. So thank you to that. I was also on the panel interviews for our new assistant principal at Mcauliffe Middle School, an important thing to do. I like to participate because I'm always interested in the caliber of the people we interview. I'm never in the decision part of when they get down to the last 2 or 3 people who are applying for the job. And all I can say is that we had an incredible pool. So we did a great job of attracting wonderful people. I also went to our district advisory committee for our LCAP, which is our budget, and it isn't nearly as much fun as, the Pageant of the Arts, but it is something that we need to do because we need to have involvement in how we get this budget, part of that budget going. And I was also able to attend one of our baseball games, and it was, we were up against Torrance, and we were losing almost until I think it was the 6th inning. And it was 2-1, and then we got 2 hits, and then we struck them out. So we won 3-2. So it was a great game. So I had never been to a baseball game before. It was quite fun. I know I'm embarrassed to admit that. Longevity pins at Oak, and the PTA Council had their HSA awards, and that was a lovely thing to recognize all the wonderful people in our district. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Cattouli. And guess who's next? Mr. Forehand.
Elvia came to work every day.
You know, I've been called a lot worse, but I'll take that as a compliment.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so much going on this time of year. Angel Stadium is incredible. Those kids get to go onto the actual MLB field. They get to hang out in the dugout. They get to play. I was fortunate enough I got to go down onto the field and help out with some of the photography. Just incredible. I mean, what a memory those kids are going to remember for the rest of their life. The orchestra, what a fantastic evening. I'm blown away. I don't have the appreciation that I should for the so-called fine arts or the classic arts. It's incredible how just well they play and how even a neophyte that isn't sophisticated like myself can just sit there and enjoy the quality of the music. It was incredible. McGall walkthrough, the blended classes are incredible. It is doing so great. I do have to give a shout out. The staff, and we've talked about the people and stuff, the staff at CDC, they have their lunches delivered. The cafeteria staff brings the little cart down to the CDC area, pulls out the trays, and puts their lunches together. They get delivered, hand-delivered meals. Just outstanding. That's going above and beyond, and it just shows the quality of the staff. Lee, I got to see Mr. Forehand's grandson receive the A for the day at the flag ceremony. That was awesome. The Lee Olympics was fantastic. And the kids running around, having so much fun, celebrating. The obstacle course is great. We just got to teach the kindergartners that they're supposed to go in under the flags to do a crawl on their belly. It's not the finish line of a race when they just snap. They run through things like a finish line, like the finish line tape. That was so awesome. Weaver Open House, incredible. Just so much fantastic stuff going on there. It's too short. I wish I had another hour or two there so I could get to go every classroom and see all of the great things that they're doing. Just blown away by the work that the kids are producing. The PTA breakfast is fantastic. Thank you to all the people that are part of either donation or volunteering. The PTA, what great things they do, what fantastic asset to the district. Shout out to the master gardeners. You can see the gardeners at a lot of the schools are coming back. They're actually putting in more gardens at more school. The master gardeners are retired teachers that actually just love the district so much that they come back on their own time and help cultivate and teach the kids. And it's something special to watch the kids get to actually get their hands dirty and get into the dirt. My dad grew up on a farm, so I'm very partial to that. It was incredible to see them hands-on learning. And again, I saw your other grandson with his hands in the dirt, and he was having a blast. The Kirchen family, thank you so much for making us aware of how we can support our military families. They sacrifice so much so that the rest of us get to enjoy all these incredible freedoms we have. And I don't think that we realize it, and it's not as aware in our conscience as we should be of how much other people are suffering or sacrificing for us so that we can enjoy all the things that we get to enjoy. So thank you for making us aware of that, making me aware of it, and I think I look pretty good in purple. So thank you. And then one more thing, there's a couple, just so much going on, but one thing I want to say out, all this stuff we talked about happened in the past. You don't get to go out and do that. But if you're looking for a treat, 6:30 tomorrow night and the following night, so that'd be Wednesday and Thursday night, the Mcauliffe Advanced Drama will be performing something. I don't know what it is, but I'm going tomorrow night. It's actually worthwhile. It's usually not very long, and the quality of the stuff it's surprisingly good. I mean, I don't know what your expectations are for middle school students to do anything, but it is really actually very, very good. So thank you so much, and get out there and enjoy. There's so much wonderful things going on. Everyone have a great time. Enjoy your spring break, relax, have fun, and I was going to say something about 13, but I can't remember trip to Tramerton.
Infant phobia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Fayette. Mrs. Davidson, you and I have something in common. I sent my husband to the Candlelight Orchestra. I missed it. I was having surgery the next day, and I found out that I was not supposed to be leaving the house. they didn't want me in anywhere. So, but my husband went and said it was amazing and just a beautiful, beautiful experience. So I really appreciate that we have these surrogates that go in and help us out and enjoy just as much as we do. So then also went to the high school open house, and it was just really spectacular. And it had been a couple of years since we'd done it. And I do know that there were a couple of challenges with parking, but those things kind of get worked out as we move along. But I got a chance to spend about probably 15 minutes with a variety of different clubs on campus. There was the Science Olympic Club. There were 4 different Christian clubs. There was ASB. There was Interact with Rotary. There was Self Above Service. There was Self Above Services Interact. There was Find Your Passion. So just a lot of different things going on at our campus at the high school to really help students connect and find the right place for themselves. I also, I love the arts and I love theater, and I got a chance to go to a tiny art show, and it was really amazing. I think some people, I was in there with another teacher, I forget who it was, and she was going, "Oh, I thought you were just going to have not very much art." But what they had was really little art. It was just spectacular. There were a couple pieces I would have actually purchased. We're going to have to work on that one. So that was really, really, really great at the high school. And then I want to thank LaSalle Lacrosse. Gave me a beautiful T-shirt to go to the game, of which I couldn't go because it was the day after my surgery. So they had a blackout, and I thought that was really, really thoughtful of them to invite us to that Pageant of the Arts. And I was going to say, like Mrs. Gattulli did, that one of the things that really just strikes me is all the retired teachers that come back and donate so many hours to that, to keep that tradition alive. And it's something that students at McGaw, they see when they're in kindergarten, and they know that when they get to 4th and 5th grade, they are going to get a chance to audition and be part of that. And I think all of our schools have very special traditions, and I think that's amazing. So also longevity pins if you don't know what longevity pins are, is that we give a pin that says I love LaSalle with a number on it every 5 years. That somebody has been in the district. And so that's why Mr. Forham said 5, 15, 10, 15, all the way up to 35. So that's a really nice way for us to be able to recognize our employees that have decided to spend their career with us and be so loyal to us as well. So that's always a really joyous thing we do at this time of year. I went to the youth center. Our Los Alamitos Youth Center had a casino night event, and I went, and they did a great job raising funds, and I really appreciate some of the community members that really support our youth center. It's a really important place for a lot of our children. They have helped they've had in years a program for music for elementary school. And hopefully that'll come back again. And they have a great leadership program. And their president of their leadership program got up and spoke. And she was a LaSalle student. And I was just in awe of somebody who was that age, kind of like Will, and could stand in front of a room and just sell what she did so well and speak so eloquently. And then I had the opportunity of agenda planning with Dr. Pulver, and we also did student board member interviews because, Will is going to be leaving us in a couple of meetings. So, but I think we found a really amazing replacement, and I know he'll do a lot of tutoring of her. So we're excited about that. And then I wanted to make one statement, and I had said that we get emails and comments throughout the weeks and the days. And I had gotten several emails asking why we as a district had not put a resolution that said that we would not teach CRT. And and a lot of times that comes to the board president, and the board president then takes it out and says to the board, is this something we should put forward? And I won't personally even take it to the board because we've already said repeatedly, we do not teach CRT. CRT is an upper level graduate curriculum that is done at a high level university. It's very law based. It's not what is appropriate for our students. And so there's no reason for us to pass a resolution when we have repeatedly said, we don't do this and we're not going to do this. So I just wanted to make that clear. And if any of the board members feel otherwise, they can certainly bring that forward. But I think we've been pretty clear about that. So that is it for my report. So we can either, we will now move into our public comment section, which I'm sure is why many of you are sitting in the room. And so we move into this, and let me go ahead and read public comment, open session items, non-agendized and agendized items. The board welcomes input from the public. This is an opportunity for community members to provide public comment to the board on agendized items or items not listed on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the board should complete a speaker request card prior to the start of the meeting. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Public comment is limited to a total of 30 minutes. And we, I believe, have 6 cards. So, okay, I will take that one. 7 cards. So we are within our 30-minute time frame. That's excellent. And then comment cards can be submitted to the district office anytime after 9 a.m. the day of the board meeting and will also be accepted at the start of the board meeting. A speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another. When addressing the board, speakers are requested to address the board from the podium, state their name, and adhere to time limits. The board may not take any action or discuss any item that is not appearing on the posted agenda and cannot immediately respond to public comment. And often that's a part that's really difficult for people because we just sit here and listen. Speakers are cautioned that under California law, no person is immune from liability for making intentionally false or defamatory comments regarding any person simply because those comments are made at a public meeting. Excuse me. So we will not, I do not believe we need a recess. We'll go straight into our present. I am doing public comments. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I thought I had that right. So we will start, and just to let you know, if I butcher your name, I'm very sorry, and please just correct me. So Brianna Segura, S-E-G-U-R-A, Segura. Did I butcher it? I'm sure I did. That's okay. So if you want to come up to the podium, and those little lights on there will help you with this. Oh, good job. And the little lights will help you with the 3 minutes.
Hello, Los Alamitos Board. My name is Brianna Segura, and I'm a current junior at Los Alamitos High School who has been involved in the program for all 3 years. 2 of those years have been under the direction of Mr. Crockett. After all of his amazing efforts through the past 2 years of COVID, we feel that Mr. Crockett deserves a permanent full-time contract and tenure in this district. Under Mr. Crockett's direction, he has made band more than just an activity and hobby I like to do. He has taught me important skills that have grown my music maturity and overall leadership. I have learned many things as a result of his teaching, and I have grown as a musician and overall student. Mr. Crockett is always willing to put in his all to what he teaches and does for us students. He stays past the time he needs in order to ensure his students are receiving help they need on music or overall guidance to anything we may need. He even puts time into after-school sectionals and rehearsals in order to make sure our music is sounding as amazing as it can. Despite going through the COVID-19 pandemic these past 2 years, Mr. Crockett has helped keep the passion for music alive amongst students. He still put in all the effort he could to engage students over video classes, which is not an easy thing to do with a band program that relies on in-person rehearsals. Coming out of the pandemic, Mr. Crockett has been able to guide a successful marching band that has won many awards and recognitions for our past 2021 season. More recently, he has led our Wind Symphony to 2 unanimous superior ratings and Symphonic Band an excellent rating during our Concert Band Festival season. Los Alamitos Unified School District emphasizes the support of the 4 A's throughout a student's educational pathway. These 4 A's include academics, athletics, activities, and the arts. By allowing Mr. Crockett to continue teaching his expertise and passion of music to current and future Griffins at Los Alamitos High School, you will be greatly supporting one of those A's being the arts.
Thank you. Very, very well done. Jason, Guggino. Pronounce it for me.
Gugino.
Okay, and you can, lift it up. Perfect. Thank you.
Good evening, Mrs. Hill, members of the board, and Dr. Pulver. My name is Jason Gugino. I'm a sophomore at Los Alamitos High School. I joined the district's band program in 3rd grade at Rossmore Elementary. I continued to pursue music with Mr. Harrell at Oak Middle School, and now I'm learning from and working with Mr. Crockett at the high school. While I originally joined band as a hobby, it has developed into so much more than that. Through the band program, I've been able to make new friends, develop my musical skills, and have experiences that ranged from district concerts to performing at Disneyland. This progress, however, was halted by COVID 2 years ago. When the pandemic hit, our band program took a massive hit as well. At that point, I was thrown into an awkward online band class for my first year of high school band. But I wasn't the only one in my first year at Los Al. Our band director, Mr. Crockett, was as well. He had moved all the way from Texas to California to teach a high school band program that was facing an unprecedented trauma. He had to ensure not only that the school continued to perform at a high level, but also that he made a personal connection with each and every student in the program during a time when we were wearing masks and attending online classes. Mr. Crockett joined Los Alamitos Band when it was at its lowest, but now is leading it back to its previous state. During the 2021 to 22 school year, under the expert supervision of Mr. Crockett, our marching band has had a season with many first-place performances. Our concert band has attended multiple festivals receiving unanimous superior marks, and our drum line has been named WGI's regional champions. We will be attending SCPA's championship finals this Saturday at the Toyota Arena in Ontario. On top of this, Mr. Crockett has been working with the middle school band classes in an effort to strengthen the Los Al band program as we move forward. He has devoted many, many hours to our band students and program, all the while being paid 80% of his deserved salary. In a time of rising inflation, he's being asked to do more with less. He has been successful in doing so, but it is unfair to ask him to continue to work under these conditions. At the moment, Mr. Crockett has not been offered a full-time contract for next year, nor has he been offered tenure for his efforts regarding our band program. Los Alamitos proudly claims that it supports the arts. I have seen some of you at our performances, and we appreciate your presence and support. But providing a full-time contract and tenure to a teacher who makes our band program possible is what it really means to support the arts. Mr. Crockett's guidance, instruction, and leadership is critical to the success of our band program. I'm asking the board to ensure that Mr. Crockett is able to have the opportunity to continue to guide the Los Alamitos concert band, marching band, drumline, and color guard. It is his direction that it makes our incredible experiences possible. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Gabriella, okay, Gabriella, come on. Thank you. And your last name, Gabriella?
Gurley.
Gurley. Oh, I can see that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gabriella Gurley, and I am a drummer in the band program at Los Alamitos High School. My freshman year, I was introduced to Mr. Crockett. Even though we were virtual learning, Mr. Crockett expressed that he wanted each of us to succeed in our music careers. He tried his best to grab our attention, and he tried his best to teach us music even through a screen. Being the only African-American person in the band, Mr. Crockett has made an environment that makes not only me, but other minorities in the band feel safe. Mr. Crockett has established an open environment amongst the band members. There are some classes on campus where I do not feel comfortable in my own skin, but in band I feel at home. I, as a student, feel as though I can approach Mr. Crockett and ask anything without being judged. I am greatly thankful for the opportunities Mr. Crockett has opened for me and my bandmates. For example, this past week, Drumline has made it to the championships. We'll be attending the SCPA championships this Saturday at the Ontario Toyota Arena, but we would not have been able to do so without Mr. Crockett. We have worked really hard and beat many other schools to get there. I would greatly appreciate being able to spend the rest of my high school music career with Mr. Crockett alongside me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy Delgadillo. Thank you, Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy Delgadillo, and I am a parent and an employee of the district. I taught at Lee from 2000 to 2005, back in the days, before I had my son, who's here in the audience today. And I'm currently in a long-term sub position at Oak Middle School. So I've now seen the entire band and music program, especially from 6th grade through 12th grade, kindergarten through 12th grade. Last year, my son did LoSal at home and was online all year. He decided to take AP Music Theory as a freshman online in lieu of taking an actual band class because he was going to be at home. So he zoomed into Mr. Crockett's classroom along with a few other students, and Mr. Crockett was welcoming to everybody and included everybody in the classroom and was able to instruct and lead the students to successfully pass their AP test. And like somebody said earlier, he was able to make a connection to all the students, including the ones that were online, which is not hard to do, not easy to do when you have never met those students before. He even opened up his classroom on a Saturday and invited the AP Music Theory students to come in and study for the test, including donuts, of course, because he knew that that year, with the COVID schedule, they were not getting the full curriculum and they had a test coming up. So he opened up his classroom on a weekend to have the students review and study for that test. And that test did have a high passing rate from our school that year, which was amazing. Let's see. Also, my son still uses what he learned in AP Music Theory to compose at home on his own time, and that was thanks to Mr. Crockett's instruction. So this year, now that he's on campus, he decided to join marching band, which was also led by Mr. Crockett. Mr. Crockett had only seen my son one time in person on that Saturday, and he knew his name and remembered him and said, "I'm so happy you're here. You're like the only person I know, coming into marching band." So like I said, making that connection online and remembering him, welcoming him into marching band. He has been supportive to all of the kids, leading them to a very successful season. He was positive. My son has said, and I have witnessed, that he created a family-like atmosphere in marching band, which is important when you are spending 3 days a week until 6 p.m. and many Saturdays all day, and summers at band camp with all of these people, including your director. He obviously puts in many extra hours, as all teachers do, but his hours include football games Thursday nights, and like I said, the practices till 6 p.m., 3 nights a week. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wendy Dunlap.
Hi, good evening, Mrs. Hill, members of the board, and Dr. Pulver. My name is Wendy Dunlap. My son is a sophomore and plays percussion in the symphonic band. And I was surprised to learn last week through an email from the co-president of the band booster that Mr. Crockett only has an 80% position. I was not aware of that. It doesn't include a full medical benefits or a prep period, classifying him only as a part-time employee. Mr. Crockett came to LaSalle High School under extraordinary circumstances during a pandemic and easily puts in more than 100% of his time to keep the band program alive by recruiting new and maintaining current students and arranging for festivals and concerts. He has gone above and beyond what was required these past 2 years. While it has been a difficult challenge, he has never wavered in his commitment to the program. My son played bells from his room for a whole year online and is now happy to be back in person this year in the symphonic band. He has decided to take marching band next year, mainly due to Mr. Crockett's encouragement. And I'm here to support and call upon the board to offer Mr. Crockett a full-time permanent teaching contract with the district. Mr. Crockett has an impeccable resume, a great passion for music, and a deep commitment to his students. And I think he should be awarded for all his hard work. And I look forward to seeing what the future holds as he continues to rebuild the marching band, color guard, and drumline programs at LaSalle High School. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ben Parchit.
Thank you, President Hill, distinguished board members, and Dr. Pulver. My name is Ben Peretti. I'm in 10th grade at LaSalle. I'm speaking in support of Mr. Crockett, the high school band director, who has not yet received his contract for the next school year. I've been in marching band for 2 years, am in jazz band, and took AP Music Theory last year with Mr. Crockett. Mr. Crockett cares passionately about the band program at LaSalle, and it shows in all the extra work he puts into the program. He's a great instructor, funny, and approachable. He's a teacher I feel like I can talk to at school and connects with the students in fun ways like playing Wordle with them. I'm still looking forward to redeeming my Wordle loss to him eventually. Last year in AP Music Theory, despite the restrictions of the COVID school schedule, Mr. Crockett not only taught the entirety of the coursework, but made the class very fun and interactive, even virtually through my computer screen. It was clear that Mr. Crockett took extra effort to engage with the students virtually. He took time to communicate the information and created ways for the students to participate in class music composing activities, which was a struggle due to perpetual internet connection and audio issues. Mr. Crockett made it a great class in spite of the COVID setbacks, and I scored very well on the AP exam. COVID has impacted the band program, and Mr. Crockett continues to find ways to keep the band program successful. Because of COVID, the marching band never got to compete or perform during my freshman year. This year, we won multiple competitions, including first place and all subcategories at one of them. I had a great time this year in marching band, thanks in large part to Mr. Crockett, and I'm looking forward to next year with Mr. Crockett too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last one is June Blanco, B-A-N-I, it looks like B-A-N-I-C-O, B-A-N-I-W.
Thank you. Benico, actually.
Benico.
Good evening, Mrs. Hill, Dr. Pulver. It's weird because I do get your emails and now I get to see you here. And members of the board. My name's Junie Benico, and I have a son. He's a senior at LaSalle. About 3 years ago, he had the decision of whether to attend my alma mater, which was St. Anthony's in Long Beach, or Los Alamitos. He attended the 8th grade orientation, and to my chagrin, he decided to go to LaSalle, mostly because of marching band. He got to see the band play in front of the auditorium. The first year, he had a really good time. He got to attend the Indoor Drumline World Championships in Ohio, where they finished in 5th place. And it's really made him, 4 years later, a world-class marimba player, which I'm very proud of. However, during that time, in his junior year, when Mr. Crockett came on board, unfortunately, COVID hit. And my son actually was really depressed that he didn't get to play because it was right before drumline season had entered and he couldn't play. But thanks to Mr. Crockett and all the other coaches, we were able to receive some of our instruments at home, so he got to play and practice on his marimba, which obviously made him happy. And as soon as we got back to playing again, he didn't lose his skills and he didn't lose what we call his chops. Music is healing, and with Mr. Crockett, it's really been, you can tell that he's passionate about music. I've seen him at a lot of the shows. This year alone, at a part-time level, we've been able to accomplish in the marching band a first place finish at the WBA Music in Motion in Ayala High School. We finished in first place at the WGI Drumline Regional, and we've also been able to become finalists at this Saturday's, which you guys are all invited to, SCPA Championships, where we finish, we are the top 12 out of 50 schools to be able to make it. Color Guard also finished first place in one of their competitions, and I can't see this being done without leaders like Mr. Crockett. To my surprise, over the weekend, I saw him in one of our indoor drumline shirts, and he's out there pushing props with us. So I do encourage you to take a look at giving Mr. Crockett a full-time tenure at Los Alamitos. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience with my pronunciation of your names, or lack thereof. So that is it for comment cards. I don't believe. Oh, yes, Dr. Pulver.
Yeah, I know you guys can't comment.
We cannot.
I can comment a little bit. So
Thank you.
I can't comment particularly about an employee, but I just love to see that the community is really sees the same things that we see in Mr. Crockett. He's an exceptional band teacher, and really just the connections that he makes with students. I know that's something that myself, Mrs. Reed, Dr. Fraser has all commented on, particularly with Mrs. Krause as well. So he just is phenomenal. In general, the way staffing is, we do student demand scheduling. So at the high school, they teach 5 periods with a conference period. So for every period where they have assigned students, that's a 20% contract. So any employee who is 50% or more does have medical benefits. And we are always looking to secure our best and most talented employees. So we share that spirit with all of you as well. So
Thank you, Dr. Pulver. I appreciate that. We will now move on to the information and presentation part of our agenda. And Mrs. Reed, presentation of a textbook.
Thank you so much, President Hill. Tonight, we're bringing forth McGraw-Hill Inspire Physical Science for our Los Alamitos High School Physical Science class, and it's starting its 30-day preview in the Education Services Department.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Reed. Second, we are going to be having a presentation of Measure K and Measure G Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report, and Mrs. Iglesias.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, it gives me great pleasure and honor to call forward our Mrs. Janet Murphy, who is our chairperson for our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee and who does a fantastic job leading that committee. So thank you so much, Janet, for being here tonight. And she's going to be presenting our annual report for 2020-21.
Thank you, Mrs. Galicia, for such a warm welcome. It is my pleasure to be here. Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Pulver. My name is Janet Murphy, and I'm the chairperson of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, also known as the Cboc for short. The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee was established as a result of Measure G, a local bond measure being approved by the voters in the November 2018 election. The passage of the bond measure necessitated the formation of the Cboc, so the district put out the call to the community for volunteers. There are now 9 committee members, and each member submitted an application, sat for an interview, and was appointed to the committee by the Los Alamitos Unified School District Board of Education. The members are Keith Crafton, Trini Jimenez, Brett Lorber, Brady Metcalf, Lorraine Navarro, Marilyn Poe, Porvi Trivedi, Chad Stewart, and myself. I would also like to recognize the service of Craig Kartosian, Alexandra Ito, and Ashwin Jen, who were members of the Cboc in 2021, whose terms recently expired. The duties of the Cboc are threefold. Number 1, to inform the public concerning the district's expenditures of bond proceeds generated under Measure K and Measure G. Number 2, to review the expenditure reports produced by the district to ensure that bond proceeds are expended only for the purposes set forth in the measures and not for teacher or administrative salaries or other operating expenses. And number 3, to present to the Board of Education an annual written report which shall include a statement indicating whether the district is in compliance with the requirements of certain sections of the California Constitution, and also including a summary of the Cboc's proceedings and activities for the preceding year. So tonight I am here on behalf of our entire committee to present the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report for 2021. Leading up to tonight, the Cboc held meetings on January 20, 2021, March 31, 2021, October 6, 2021, January 26, 2022, and most recently, March 30th, 2022. Members of the committee also had the opportunity to tour the construction site. At our most recent committee meeting on March 30th, the Cboc was presented with the annual audit by Brian Ruff of Eide Bailey, an independent auditing firm. Mr. Ruff presented the financial and performance audits for Measure K and G to the Cboc. In the audit, it states, quote, "In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the building fund, Measure K and G, of the Los Alamitos Unified School District, at June 30, 2021, and the respective changes in financial position for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, end quote. Mr. Ruff answered the questions posed to him by members of the CBOC with full and complete answers. The Measure K and Measure G 2021 final audit reports are available for review online at the school district website, lawsal.org, under the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee tab. This website also contains other information of the activities of the CBOC. At the CBOC's request, the district has kept this up to date with all relevant information. In conclusion, the CBOC finds the Los Alamitos Unified School District to be in compliance with the requirements of Article 13A, Section 1B3 of the California Constitution. Now, having presented the annual report for 2021 of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee to the Los Alamitos Board of Education, the CBOC would like to thank Dr. Andrew Pulver, Elvia Galicia, CJ Noland, Myra Gonzalez, and Shoshana Dornblazer for all their assistance throughout our third term. We have been provided with rapid responses to all of our requests for information and clarification, and it has been a pleasure working with all of you to achieve our stated mission. And the committee would also like to extend our gratitude to you, members of the Board of Education, for your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Murphy. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Mrs. Gutuli.
I just want to thank you, Janet, for your leadership in this committee, and if you could please express, and I think I'm probably speaking on behalf of the entire board, please let the entire committee know that we really appreciate their time and their expertise, because we can't do it, because it's like balancing your own books, and that just isn't a very clean thing to do. So I do, because a lot of people would find that not fun. And so I really appreciate it when you get a group of people who know what questions to ask and can take care of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I will definitely convey that to all of them.
Mr. Fayette?
Yeah, just thank you. Extend our appreciation to the committee for their oversight and their commitment and their time. I don't know when you find time to do this. Between the council PTA, the Oak PTA, thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you. I don't know how I find time either, honestly.
You give a busy person a job. Mrs. Murphy, thank you very much. I chaired this when it was just Measure K a very long time ago. And so it's great to see this and see this report, and just really appreciate people from within our community who are paying our bond dollars to really make sure that it is being spent appropriately and to the best of its ability. And thank you also for touring the site. I know that we really enjoyed that, and it must feel really wonderful that all this work you're doing and now you're seeing it come to fruition.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited to see the final building.
Thank you very much. And do thank the committee for us. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to the quarterly report on Williams uniform complaints for January 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2022. Dr. Frazier.
Thank you, Madam President. We are bringing forward the quarterly Williams report from January to March. As presented, there was no findings.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to the presentation of facilities use rates, and Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. I will be calling CJ Nolan, our Director of Facilities Maintenance Operation, who's going to give us a presentation number 6 on the facility user groups.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Madam President, honorable members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to share tonight on our facility use rates. This is again continuing on trying to really establish our group rate assignments for our facility use rates. And as we get going where we left off, we really established the first 2 steps of updating our facility use rates, and that is our direct cost of facilities, which really represents how much it costs us to maintain and operate those facilities. Further on, we have our grouping assignments, which is how we want to differentiate each of our user groups in terms of priority, or it could also be for rate assignments, which is the item we're on now. So these rate assignments really establish how much of our direct cost we choose to pass on to each of these user groups. So as we go through this presentation, here are some things that we want to consider and take note of as we go through. I'm in control now. All right. So the district has not adjusted our rates since 2016. It is the industry standard to update our direct costs every 2 years. And the rate assignment that we're looking at tonight is applied to that direct cost to establish the fee charged to the user group. So really, by establishing a rate assignment, we'll be able to update our direct costs and continually adjust our facility use rates with our current costs that we're actually paying as they get updated. So once we establish these percentage rates, it's something that we could hold in place, and we won't have to adjust in the future. As we get going, there are two main questions that we're going to want.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that.
Yep.
You said once we establish it, we won't have to.
Once we establish the percentage rate assignment.
Percentage, great, thank you.
No problem. So there's really two main questions that we're going to look at tonight. And they consist of which rate should we charge group 2, which is our district partners like LAIF, and group 3, our city partners. Should they be the same or different rates? And then the second question we would want to be able to answer tonight is which rate should we charge group 4, which is our community-based nonprofit volunteer staffing, and group 5, which is our community-based nonprofit paid staffing. Should they be the same or different rates? So just to recap what our groups are, on the left-hand side, you can see that group 1 is our district-sponsored meetings, activities, and events, including in-season high school athletics, activities, and PTA. So this would include our any group that directly supports the district, like LAIF, or is, excuse me, sorry, not LAIF. So that is like our internal district groups, like the high school itself, or any of our sports teams that actually are part of our district in-house. Group 2 is our non-district meetings, activities, and events, including LAIF and booster organizations that directly support a group classified under Group 1. So right now we have some sample group rates on the right-hand side. These are just sample rates that we would be looking to apply, and it's a 50% off of our direct cost, or what our actual cost is to maintain and operate that facility.
CJ, when you talk about the booster organizations that directly support classification in Group 1, what I would like an example of that. I'm thinking like maybe they have their booster club meetings there.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So that would be like if they have a booster club meeting and they need to rent like a classroom or something like that, they would receive the same rate as LAIF or whatever percentage we would like to apply. So right now, as our sample rate, we would have 50%.
Okay, thank you.
And then we have.
I might want to interject there, though.
Okay.
I don't know why I didn't catch that prior. I would think we might want to, if that is how we think of it, we might want to consider that similar to PTA. Our boosters, our friends of, et cetera, should probably be in Group 1. I don't believe we charge them currently. Correct. So I think it's really, I would advocate that if for some, and that might be a typo on our end as we were doing this, but I think they're just as the same as a PTA, I would imagine.
Okay.
What I was thinking is if I was a coach and my booster club wanted to meet, they could just use my classroom. So I was wondering that. So I prefer moving up to a PTA level.
I agree. I can't imagine charging a booster club who's supporting our organizations, our music and sports, and filling in holes that have been created by deficit. So I can't imagine charging them. I think they should be moved to group 1 as well.
Another example of what would fall under group 2 would be if a coach or a booster club has a summer camp at one of our sites. That would also fall under that group 2.
Yeah,
So,
outside of Lake.
Yeah, that I can understand because it's a more of a fundraising activity or a income producing activity. So, but I do think that if there, and that's why I did ask that question, if there are simply booster club meetings or orientations or anything like that, I would hope that we would allow them to utilize our facilities, but under the correct guidelines, under our guidelines.
So what I'm hearing, that we would put our boosters organizations, much like our Friends of groups at the elementary schools, our marching band boosters, we saw probably many of them here tonight, drama, etc., that they'd be in group 1. It's probably more like every once in a while we might see an anomaly where a booster is doing something outside of directly supporting it, but maybe it's a tournament or something that is a fundraiser. So, but I would advocate that we put it in group 1. And I think that's what we currently do. I think we may have just shifted it when we cut and pasted.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, CJ.
Kind of to tag on what Dr. Pulver just said, and you mentioned in group 2, if they were to have like if a sports team was going to have like a summer camp, not necessarily through LAIF, but on their own, we maybe could put in down summer camps or other fundraising activities, which is different than your, maybe call it on-site fundraising activities.
We can absolutely clarify further.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Hey, CJ. So most of the elementary schools have a carnival.
It's PTA sponsored.
So it's PTA, so that's fine. That can go under PTA.
That would be a group 1.
Even though they are fundraising, it's still under the PTA, so we'd still go.
That is correct. The only costs that we pass on to the groups like that are the direct costs. If we have to hire a custodian, if we have to hire cafeteria workers so that when they're using our kitchen, et cetera, we don't absorb that cost. That cost is passed on to
I just want to make sure
organization.
I don't want to get any PTA people after me.
Yeah. And they are required to get insurance as well, correct? Thank you.
And then moving on to group 3, we have our city partners, which include the city of Los Alamitos and the city of Seal Beach. And on the right-hand side, we wanted to keep, in our sample group rates, we wanted to keep that rate close, but we've also discussed possibly slightly differentiating that from our district supporting groups like LAIF. So we have it at a range of 50 to 55%. Moving on to group 3, or group 4, excuse me, we have our community-based nonprofit volunteer staffing. In our sample rates, we have that ranging from 60 to 65%. With our group 5 community-based nonprofit paid staffing ranging from 70 to 75%. Now, further on, we have group 6, which is all other nonprofits with a sample rate of 100% or 100% of our direct costs, what it actually costs for us to maintain and operate that facility. Further on, lastly, we have group 7, which is our for-profit organizations, and we have a sample rate of 200%, which is the common practice among school districts located throughout Orange County.
So I'm just going to take one example. It's the LAIF at 50%. If you know offhand, if you don't, that's fine. But are we going to give them sticker shock? Like how far out are we going to? Because we had talked about maybe scaling it up as we went along. And if that's outside this conversation, that's fine. It can be tabled for later. I just don't want to give them sticker shock. Like, oh my gosh, now you have to charge 3 times as much for that.
We won't. We're going to outline that in our scenarios here.
Okay.
We're going to use our most common one, which is booking a field. And then the other thing, remember, I think the direction the board and we both also recommended is we would not implement this until January 1 of 2023. So we're in 22, right? Yeah, 23. So to give plenty of notice.
Thank you.
But at the same time, remember, our rates haven't changed since 2016, and yet our cost to repair and maintain our facilities has dramatically increased since 2016.
So as you can see here, we have our grouping assignments located on the left-hand side. Now, we previously discussed whether this would be a grouping for priority or would it be grouping for rates as well. So we really wanted to explore the options of what it would look like to combine certain groups on the left-hand side in terms of what we would be passing along as the rate. So previously we discussed combining group 2 and group 3 into being charged the same rate. And then we've also discussed combining group 4 and group 5 as the same rate possibly as well. So in the upcoming slides in this presentation, we're going to show some options of what that might look like and see if we do want them to have the same rate or if we want some slight differentiation between how much we charge to each of these user groups. So as Dr. Pulver was mentioning earlier, these are some sample rates for our most commonly rented facility, which is our large field. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see our current rate is $28.92, with the OC average being around $24.50. We've separated all of our rate groups on the left-hand side, and we have 3 options, with option 1 being the 50% for LAIF and district partners at $29.39, and then a slight differentiation to our city partners at 55%, where it would be $32.33. Now, this is the same rate, or this is near the same rate what we're charging now, which is the $28.92 for this same facility. So if LAIF or the city were to rent the large field at this current time, it would cost them $28.92. So with these percentage rates, it would do a little to limit that sticker shock. Moving down, we have our community nonprofit volunteer at 60%, which is at $35.27. And then we have our community nonprofit paid staff at 70%, which is $41.15. And then 100% for all of the other nonprofits, which is 100% of our direct costs at $58.79. And then 200% for our for-profit groups, which would be $117.58. In option 2, we're showing an option of what it would look like to combine our LAIF and our city partners group. So if we had both of these groups at a 50% rate, it would be $29.39. And then we would leave the community nonprofit volunteer and the community nonprofit paid separated with a volunteer group at 60% and the paid group at 70%. And then further down the line, we would still have our other nonprofits at 100% and our for-profit would remain at 200%.
I just want to interject for a second. So these percentages are areas somewhat that the thresholds that we recommend, but you certainly could give us direction to, instead of 70, to make it 65. So we've tried to give you different price points. If you look in different options, what that price would be for that group to get a better picture. So this is kind of where we would be wanting the direction. So it's, hopefully at our next board meeting, we could be actually present after our 6th update, actual rate sheet based upon groups. And I mean, there's a myriad of options too. He's going to explain option 3, but you could do a hybrid of option 2 and option 3 as well along the way. So we just needed to it would get too overwhelming if we showed you like 7 options, but I think it's really about what are we doing with groups 2 and 3 and group 4 and 5.
Exactly. And as Dr. Pulver was saying, we're showing ranges of rates. So as you see in option 3, we have a separation between LAIF and our city partners, but it's less of a separation where we have the city at 52%, which is a $30.57 rate or charge. And then we have our community nonprofit volunteer staffing and paid staffing combined as one rate group at 65%, which would be $38.21. Just a little less than $10 more than what they're paying now. And then again, our all other nonprofits would be remaining at 100%, and then our for-profits would be remaining at 200%.
So this is where I'd like to stay back there. And remember, we outlined there are two questions. The first question that we're wanting to get direction from the board is which rate should we charge group 2 and group 3? So let's just focus on that right now, which is LAIF, boosters, PTA. Sorry, not boosters and PTA, they're in the zero rate. So LAIF and our city partners. Should LAIF and city be, we already prioritize for use LAIF over, but should the rate, you might recall the presentation that Mr. Nolan presented, update number 5, was that some districts, they don't have 7 different rates. They probably have about 4 rates, and they just put people in differently. So option 1 bases it separate. Option 2 combines them, and option 3 is kind of like option 2, but it just gives LAIF a slight lower rate, not lower, but the city, they are a different rate, but it's only a 2% difference as opposed to. Just to somehow, because wasn't sure, earlier in some of these conversations, some of you had really expressed how I believe LAIF should be separate. And so we wanted to give you a few options there to consider.
A clarifying question. Is one goal for this discussion just to get a fewer number of rates, of category rates? Or is this discussion more how we want to charge people?
Yeah, I don't think we're driven by a number. What we think is the most equitable and realistic, because once these have percentages, they'll be easy for us to implement. Okay. So it's really is obviously how you prioritize is the groups that are closest to us. And so okay. I think the goal is really what do we think is the right way to approach this for the use of our fields by partners, by the community and nonprofits, and then obviously for profits.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were that the goal, whether the goal was to get fewer categories.
Yeah.
So, no, it's not. Okay, thank you. So,
can I ask?
Is your mic on?
Sorry, thank you. We'll take group 1 and group 2. I believe they both serve the children. Well, most of these serve the children, but I don't have a problem combining LAIF and city partners because they are 2 really close partnerships. I really like that we prioritize LAIF first. I do think that's appropriate. I think the amount is really kind of nominal. And it seems to me that we've given LAIF the nod with the prioritizing it. I don't see it necessary to have 2 groups that are anywhere between 2 and 5% different.
Can I ask a question? So I agree with what Diana's saying, but $32.33 compared to $29.39. I don't know what a difference that makes. I mean, I don't know how much revenue this generates. So is that a big difference in what the district will take in? Is it a loss, or is it? I mean, it doesn't look like it, but if you're talking about, thousands of dollars. What's the difference for us in asking 32 to 33 for city partners as opposed to 29.39? What is our loss?
She means in the ad.
So I think it's hard to completely state, but as anything over 33, 34% is covering our direct cost. And then, as you know, we have to maintain and improve the fields. And so it allows us to help with a portion of that. We are probably the biggest user of our facilities, and we should be. So there is a cost that the district should have there, which is why most of our options are trying to stay within our current rates or close to it, at least for our partners there. But that rate is for the large field, I think, per hour. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, some of our fields might have, how many fields could a large field, or like Mcauliffe and Oak are probably the 2 biggest fields used. How many large fields are on each one?
There are 2 large fields on each one.
Okay.
So I think I'm just asking, does it hurt us dramatically if we don't separate them out? Like if we don't, is it not a big deal to not charge the city partners 32, 33? Because it makes sense to me to combine them, but I don't know what the loss is to us.
Do we know who uses the fields more currently? I mean, because probably Leif uses more classrooms. Like we're just giving the field because it would also be overwhelming to have you guys take a look at every facility use. But we do have classrooms, basketball courts, et cetera.
So the city definitely rents their large field space more than Leif, but Leif also rents some classroom spaces and other spaces more than the city would.
So if my memory serves me correctly, I think when one of the previous ones, I think you came up with like 1,600 hours for the field to be rented.
For the course of a year?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like 1,600. So if you take 1,600, and if you want to say that there's 4 fields, well, someone with the quicker fingers on a calculator can figure it out. I mean, if you just take 4 times 16, you're at 64,000. So you're somewhere in the ballpark of 64,000 if you separate out over a whole year, if you separate those two things out. And I'm doing $4, and this is actually less than that. So that's $3. So, you're at 50,000 for a whole year if you want to differentiate those two groups, is my back of the notepad.
And that would be if all of those 1,600 hours were going to the city, which is not necessarily the case. A lot of our field hours specifically go to groups like AYSO, FNL.
That are down farther in the food chain.
Which they would fall in under groups 4 or 5, which is our community-based volunteer staffing or community-based paid staffing.
Okay. So if I can continue monopolizing the conversation, I like kind of option 2. My primary concern is these are our fields, our community pays for these fields, all of our facilities. So it should be for our residents, our community, our people connected with our community, but these should be all for our community. I don't really see a huge difference between Leif and the city partners, and maybe we can generate some more goodwill and working relationships over, you're talking, tens of thousands of dollars is a lot of money, but over the life of a year, and working those partnerships and keeping the thing and making it just easier for the people booking the thing. And I think that I know that the most of the field use that I saw was city partner was adult soccer leagues when I was doing that. And that was, I think, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Saturday it was back AYSO. And then you had Friday Night Lights, which were, Friday Night Lights and ASO are down farther on the food chain. So you're not even, so like I said, that number, that differential keeps getting lower, lower, lower. I just think it's a little goodwill. And how much more direct for our community is our own and our city partners. So I think that's really what I feel like the facility should be focused on is the local community, the residents, and it should be for our local people.
So I think I'm hearing from the whole board that we like option 2 for group A and group B with prioritizing Leif first, which we've already done, and then the city. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then in that, I just want to verify, because the other option is the 50, the 55, or the 52. I assume it's the 50, but I just want to make sure we get concreteness here.
Yes. As option 2 as presented. Well done. Yes.
Wow, we only have one more decision to make in terms of, but it's still thank you.
Okay, so if we start discussion on community, nonprofit, volunteer, and paid, I think we may have longer discussion on this one because I believe they should be combined as well with prioritizing them with community, nonprofit, volunteer prioritized above community, nonprofit, paid. But I think they should be paid the same. I think they should be charged the same because I truly believe that it will it won't impact the organization. It will impact the user, the players, because it will simply be passed on. And so by combining them, I think we simplify it, and then by prioritizing them below the community, nonprofit, volunteered, that's where we make a difference. That's my 2 cents.
And then just before, not to confuse, I do want to make sure there are, in terms of clear, it's very clear either they're separate or they're combined.
Correct.
And then the rates, if there could be between 60 and 70, but notice in option 3, you could also consider a 65. Let's say you ended up doing option 2, you could choose to not have as large of a spread between, where you could do 60 and 65 as well. So there's just all those kind of permutations. I wanted to make sure we're in your head as you have these discussions.
And I like the 60. I do like the 65%, because that is 15% more than direct partners with. That's a difference. And those are, the city and LAIF are direct partners with our district. So, but I'm open to that. So, Mr. Forham?
Mike? I want to make sure Marcus can hear you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I see no reason not to combine them. I'm willing to listen, but, why not? 65%. Meg?
Mrs. Catuli?
I understand what you're saying. And the really sad part for me is I think you're correct. I think if whatever we raise the nonprofits with paid staff, they are just going to pass it on to our community members. And that angers me.
Yeah.
And I can do nothing about that. But because of that, I do not support combining them. I really want them separate, but I'm only one person, and if I'm outvoted, that's fine. I just I just look particularly at AYSO and the people who spend hours and hours and hours there, and they're so altruistic. And every year I remember bringing my grandkids, not knowing the name of their coach, not knowing the name of their team. They try to find the team they're supposed. Anyway, the people are fabulous. And the other organizations where you have paid staff, yes, they're good too, but they're paid. While AYSO to me is like this, shining example of altruism. So I'm stuck on that.
Okay.
I agree with Meg. AYSO coaches and staff spend so much of their own money to supplement what goes on the fields, and they spend hours setting up and cleaning up and painting the fields and all of that. And I don't think we can help the fact that somebody who's nonprofit but pays their staff is going to up it no matter what. That's capitalism. But I just feel like AYSO and LaSalle Junior Baseball, all of those organizations have taken giant hits, and some of the kids on those teams don't have extra money, and it will come out of their parents' pocketbooks. I'd like to keep them separate.
So, and Mr. Fayed, I'll get you, but I think you contradicted yourself, Marlis, in the sense that I'm fearful that it will cost it'll cost the players more, because I'm convinced they're going to pass that on. So to play so-and-so that has a community nonprofit but paid staff, and those students or those players are going to pay more because we increase their fees. It's not going to decrease the amount of profit, if there is a profit, that paid staff will make. And a lot of that paid staff is actually coaches and stuff, because I understand different than in my day. Parents are volunteering less, is from what I've heard. And so in some of the organizations, they're having to pay coaches, like they pay high school kids to coach in Friday Night's Lights, so that they'll be able to have enough teams.
The community doesn't want it. That's my answer. I'm not participating in the community.
Well, they want their kids to play. They just don't want to bet. Okay. Okay. Mr. Fayed.
Okay. So I think they should be separate, because I feel that if you're all volunteer, you should get a break. You have, if you're paying the staff, not paying the staff. My thing that I'm looking at it from a different angle is how difficult it's going to be to enforce or legislate this, because AYSO is all volunteer. I've done AYSO. And I say the people that do a lot of stuff do great, but what is considered pay? If now you got a high school kid that's out there reffing games and you pay him in pizza, or you pay him $10 a game to do that. The same thing, and the same thing with with Friday Night Lights, which I think that's kind of the two groups we're kind of really looking at. And like Friday Night Lights is more open about that. They've been paying their refs for a long time. They do that. Also with basketball, like NJV and Alley Oop. They pay high school or college guys to come back and coach them. How, and I understand philosophically and emotionally that the difference, like, no, if everybody's a volunteer, they should have a break because that's all volunteer versus what's, your paid staff. But, boy, it's a real nebulous kind of a quagmire once you step into, where do you draw that line? You go say, hey, listen, you're paying your kid, $10 to ref a Friday Night Lights game. You're paying a kid $10 to ref an AYSO game, that was kind of how it was going when I was there. Now, it still is, but what happens when they cross that line? Or you give them pizza. Well, that's not really paying, but you're compensating. So that is my concern, is we're going to step into a quagmire, and I don't want the community to have another divisive issue to say, AYSO, you're doing this, why do I have to pay? And Friday Night Lights is saying, you're doing this, we do the same thing. That's the other thing I'm talking about, is how do you legislate that? I philosophically and in my head say, I think there should be a divide between all volunteer and paid staff. How do we, that gets really kind of quagmire and you step into it. And I mean, you're talking about $5.
And do we still know that AYSO is completely volunteer, that they don't?
I have not asked them specifically other than what I've.
Okay.
Yeah, because AYSO was all volunteer, but they were starting to bring in, and they were starting to do community service hours, and they were starting to bring in these kids to ref. Right. Indentured servants. So, like I said, but they kind of step into that quagmire, and I can see both sides of that.
So I'm unclear. I feel like I have, at first I wrote down 3 want it separate and 2 want it the same. But Mr. Fight, I'm unclear. Are you wanting it this separate, or I've heard philosophically, but practically? So now I'm stuck.
I want to have it both ways.
Right. And we can't have that.
I want my cake and I want to eat it too.
And it doesn't mean there's more conversation to be had.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Scott, the difference is that AYSO or LaSalle Junior Baseball, they might pay refs and they might pay people to work Snack Shack rather than I can pay somebody $20. That's what it was when I was required to work it. That's my choice. But the management of, as I understand it, the management of groups like Friday Night Lights, those people running it are making money. People running AYSO, my husband's done it for 38 years. He doesn't get paid a penny. If he goes to a conference, they'll pay for the hotel room, but the management is paid in those franchises. Friday Night Lights is a franchise and you can make a really good salary. So, I mean, it's confusing to me why it's even called nonprofit. But I think there's a big difference. I mean, that's just my perspective.
So the difference would be, because I think we need an answer from Scott before we go any further. So Scott, you need to give us the answer. Are we looking at 2 or looking at 1?
At this point, I think it's 2.
Okay.
I would like to see 2, and I'd like to see a pretty minimal separation, but I do feel
that's the next question. So
Thank you. That's I was going to try to unpack them that way. Yes. So you were reading my mind.
So, okay, now we're looking at 2.
So to be clear, group 4, a nonprofit volunteer will be at a separate rate, less than the nonprofit paid staffing. And now we're going to determine the rates.
Correct. So now we've determined they're going to be 2 different rates. So then what are we, what what is the differential between the two? I mean, obviously, community, nonprofit, volunteer, we've got at 60. So what are we looking at wanting to charge the community nonprofit paid? And I think also the differentiation between the two is paid management, not paid staff. That's a big difference.
Exactly. I was going to ask that clarifying question.
Yeah. So it's paid management, not paid referees and lawn people and all those other things. So what percentage do we want to increase for the community nonprofit management paid?
I like option 2. It's my favorite number.
So you want 60 and 70, the way it's written. So we're just going with
Just want to
option
make
2.
sure we all know what the options are. It could be, at this point, it would either be option 2, or instead of 70% for the nonprofit paid, you could do 65. So instead of a 10% difference, you could do a 5% difference. So let's just put it in context. AYSO, I think I heard the baseball, et cetera. It would be 35-27 for a large field. And then for Friday Night Lights, it would either be 38-21 if you chose a 65% rate, or a 41-15 at a 70% hourly rate.
So Friday Night Lights, they do Friday and Thursday now. So that's
Friday.
2 nights a week.
It's hard to understand.
And it's 4 hours?
It might be 4 to 6.
Which is 4 hours. No, 4 to 6?
No, 4 to 6 hours, sorry.
Oh, 4 to 6 hours.
Yes.
Okay. So if you do 6 hours, and if they do 50 weeks a year, and if you do, let's make it easy.
I'm going to confuse you even further. I don't believe they use large fields. I think they use very small fields. Or they take a large field and then they make them into smaller fields.
That's what I'm saying. So
you're right.
Again, I'm doing the back of the envelope calculation.
You're right.
I'm going to say 5 hours, because if there's 2 nights a week, that's 10 hours. And then you do 50 weeks, and they don't go 50 weeks. You do 50 times that's 500. So it's 500 times, you want to do a $3 different, that's 1,500 more, which is going to come from somebody.
It's going to come from our community.
Or it's 3,000.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's going to come from somebody somewhere. That's kind of the decision that I'm looking at with the back of the envelope kind of a thing. It's like, yeah, that's going to translate, they have 1,500 kids play a season. At least it was when my kid was going there, and it was, I don't think it's gotten any smaller. So they're going to be passing along $1 to $2 a kid, which again, you're adding, like you said, it's going to be a pass-through.
Yeah.
We're going to charge them more. They're going to charge more. If that's kind of the back of the envelope calculation.
So that's a 60 and 70. So I think what I'm hearing is that everybody's, I'm not happy with, but I'm comfortable with. I'll do it that way. Option 2. How about?
I've only heard 2 people mention a rate, so I'd like to get clarity. It's really either 65 or 70%. If we could just make it that simple, should the nonprofit paid group, do you want to charge 65% or 70%? I think it's really just that'll help unpack it. The unpacking the information you had is certainly helpful in your logical thinking,
Right.
But the
But
decision
somebody
to
else
give
has to come forward,
staff
because I
for
don't think
us.
we should do either. So I'm not the one that's going to lead that discussion.
I'm comfortable. I know I'm comfortable with the 70% for the nonprofit paid, but by the same token, I could compromise with the 65 if I hear some passionate discussion to convince me to be a nice person.
Mrs. Davidson, what do you feel?
I'm okay with that. Yeah. The 65, 70.
We need clear direction, either 65 or 70. Which do you recommend?
No, I'm saying 70 for the nonprofit paid, and you're saying.
Okay. You think 70. What about you, Mr. Fayette? You said you liked all of option 2.
Yeah, I like all of option 2.
Okay. Are you okay with 70%? Okay. I think you can move forward with 70% on that. 60% for community-based nonprofit volunteer, 70% for
Volunteer management, right? That's what we're. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, management. Yeah. I think CJ's got it.
So I'll just summarize what we have for the two questions that we have. So groups 2 and 3, which is LAIF and city partners, it is combining the rates, option 2 at 50%.
Yes.
For our nonprofit community-based, group 4 would be nonprofit volunteer staffing in terms on the management level. That would be at a rate 60% of our real cost, and a nonprofit paid management staffing would be at, for community-based, would be at 70%.
Correct.
And then,
Yes.
and then we really, the industry standard on the other ones. So you would have exactly what you see in option 2.
Yeah. Yep.
I should have just said that.
That's okay. We're all clear. So that's good. Sort of. Clear as mud.
So we came to a conclusion?
We did.
We did out of 6 board updates on this. So what we will do is we will, now remember, you only saw it on the large field, but we'll apply it to all of our, because I think otherwise it'd be a nightmare. We'll apply this rate. We'll get a rate sheet ready for either our April or our first board meeting in May, but hopefully the April 29th board meeting, where you will actually now approve the direction you've given us.
Great.
With the priority groupings and the rates associated. And again, reminding that we won't implement it until January 1, 2023. And then every 2 years, we'll restudy our direct costs to see how that affects, if there's any effect moving forward.
Perfect.
So can I would like to make a, so CJ, you're going to be the boots on the ground on this, that is going to have to start to reach out to our thing. Will you be able to let us know what you hear back, feedback from what we've sent out?
Absolutely. And we actually have already reached out to our main user groups that were going through this discussion. Now that we have established the direction that we want to go, I can reach out to them again, and I'll update the board through any feedback that we receive.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Fabulous. We are now moving on to our consent calendar. And are there any polls? No polls. So I would like a motion for our consent calendar, 13A through 13S.
Okay.
Yes.
Move approval of the calendar is presented.
Okay. Mrs. Dawn Blaster, I think we need to take a roll call. We have a first and a second.
Mr. Fayette?
Aye.
Mrs. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Aye. Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay. We are now going to move on to action items. And our first action item is a presentation and approval of A through G completion improvement grant plan. Easy for me to say. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you so much, President Hill. Tonight, we're going to be bringing forth the details of our A through G completion grant plan. I think it was the board meeting before that Mrs. Davis gave us as an overview as we were in the planning phase of completing this grant. And to tonight, she's been kind enough to stay with us so that she could present a quick overview of what will be writing the specified funds for our unduplicated students.
Good evening, President Hill, members of the board, Dr. Pulver, cabinet, and community. So as Mrs. Reed said, tonight I'm here to present the A through G completion improvement grant. I'm going to start by a overview that I talked about last month, just as far as the components of the A through G completion improvement grant. So really the intent of this grant is to increase the number of high school students who will graduate with A through G eligibility. So the funds that we've received are targeted to serve our unduplicated pupils, which is our English learners, low-income students, and our foster youth, which currently is about 21% of our students. And so those targeted funds for the unduplicated pupils are to service those in grades 9 through 12. So the funds can be used for activities that directly support student access and successful completion of the A through G course requirements. Our allocation here in Los Alamitos is $428,983, and that $428,000 is to last. We have to expend the funds by the end of the 26 school year. So the 25-26 school year is the time frame we have. So In the plan, which I have, everyone should have a copy of, and I've included and we can review as well, our planned use of the funds that is written into the grant is really to add the addition of an A through G college readiness counselor at Los Alamitos High School to support our targeted unduplicated pupils in grades 9 through 12. So that will take up the bulk of the funds, that $428,000. And then in addition to that, we'll also have funds for professional development for our teachers, administrators, and counselors, as well as any AP specific training for teachers or any exam fees, AP exam fees for our unduplicated pupils. So these are the 4 components that are written into the grant. The way the grant is written is once the funds are gone, they're gone. And so our hope is that we can stretch them as long as we can. But that $428,000 is a one-time fund. Yes.
Mrs. David, so that so what you're saying is we're going to hire an extra counselor at the high school that just helps students make sure that they are A through G ready, correct? Okay. And that counselor may go away at some point in time.
President Hill, can I add a little bit into it?
Yes.
So we looked at our data of our last 5 years of our graduating students, and we looked at what our overall percentage of completion for all students at Los Alamitos High School is. So it ranges anywhere from 72 to 76% over the past 5 years. And then we looked at the completion rate for our unduplicated students, and there really is a divide amongst the group. About 50% of the students that are in the unduplicate count are well within the mean of our average, 72 to 76, but the other half, about 230 students in a typical year, are about 52%. So it's about a 20 quartile lower. So that means their eligibility when they leave us is less than our typical graduating class. And so what our thought was really supplementing the support that targeted group of unduplicated students would have with a counselor that's really doing more connecting with them and training not only the student but the families about the opportunities available post-college, also connecting with resources through Orange County Department of Education and partnering with the guidance counselor. So these students in theory would still be under, I'm going to make this up, Mrs. Hutchison is my alpha counselor, but I'm also getting specialized support and resources through a college readiness counselor so that we can really start building processes and protocols within our high school to support these students ongoingly. So right now it is absolutely accurate. We would have the counselor for about 2 years, but our hope would be in that 2 years of time, we'd really be able to build structures and support that would support our unduplicated students moving forward. Another thing is the trainings and parent sessions that they would offer would be open to all of our families. So I'm going to give an example. If they were going to do a parent ed night on completing the FAFSA, right, the financial aid process, it wouldn't just be open to our unduplicated pupils. It would be open to all students. However, we may specifically target those families, and that counselor may then hold mini sessions, I'm making all this up, in smaller groups with those families to make sure they're really getting the support that they need to be 4-year college ready when they graduate, if that makes more sense.
That's very helpful. Staff? Yep.
Okay. I want clarification. So this counselor obviously is an additional counselor, but these students will still have their regular counselor. So we're not alleviating the numbers from any of our existing counselors.
It's not really about alleviating our student count per counselor. It's about us investing in resources and support structures for students that I don't think we've been targeted in making sure that, I mean, we look at every student. We're about 100%. But when it's a smaller percentage of your student body, I don't think we've been able to dig in and do the work that some, I'd say, larger urban school districts have done to really support this demographic of student. And so this would be our opportunity to really build those foundations, hopefully foundations that we can build into the culture of the way our counselors do their work and our systems work ongoingly, but need someone to initially phase those in, help educate our counseling team and our administration and teachers as well about how we can differentiate and make sure that all students on campus are really 4-year eligible when they leave us.
That being said, we have dedicated dollars every year through the LCAP supplemental dollars. If we were to see significant rates increase where now our unduplicated count of students is achieving to the same rate of 70, 75, whatever, we would be naive to not see that we should maybe recommend ongoing through our supplemental LCAP dollars, dedicate funds, where we're really seeing the difference that these resources make and the impact that they have. We don't know. That's what's great about a grant like this, is it allows us to try something new. Maybe the state will also extend the grant. I don't know, because we've seen that lately too. But if we saw a dramatic improvement, the LCAP dollars through the supplemental funds certainly would give us a lens to really think, wow, we're getting some great bang for our buck. This has been a really valuable resource that we might want to consider it. But the grant itself for now is about 2 years.
And I know, Mrs. Davis, you can speak on it in your meetings. They've talked about potentially that this money would be ongoing.
Absolutely. So this is as of right now through the 25-26 school year, but there is talk that it could continue past that. So this is kind of the first allotment. Great. And it also is, like I said, dependent on your unduplicated count, the percentage as far as how districts receive that funding.
So this is on top of our LCAP
correct
as well. Okay. Did we interrupt you? Do we have anything else
no,
to finish?
That was kind of it. It was just explaining exactly how we're planning on spending the funds.
Great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you. And I'll look forward to seeing the data. Come back and see what our progress.
And then this was a two-part process, presentation, and then now you'll be actually approving the grant.
Okay, Mrs. Davidson has a question.
No, I just want to applaud you guys for doing this work, because the whole idea of every student being A to G college ready was just seemed like a wonderful idea, but it wasn't realistic without the support system that you're planning right now. I think this is outstanding. It gives validity to the idea that you can get the kids to succeed in the classes. Just putting them in there. Somebody said to me once, "What am I trying to deny kids the right to go to college?" When I said A to G might not be right for everyone without a good support system. You guys have created it. So thank you so much. This is wonderful. Great use of money.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Davidson. Okay, so we have now had the presentation, and now I will look for I see. Okay, and now I will look for a motion that we approve the A through G completion improvement grant plan. Moved and seconded, and so we will have a roll call, Mrs. Dunbosser.
Mr. Fayette? Aye. Mrs. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Aye. Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Great. Wonderful work. Thank you very much, Mrs. Davis. Okay, now we're moving on to the approval of the first reading of revised board policy 5111, admissions, and this is Dr. Frazier.
Thank you, Madam President. We're bringing forward the first reading of our board policy 5111 on admission. So this is being updated based on the CSBA policy guide sheet. This revision also reflects the distinction between compulsory education for students starting at age 6 and the requirements for districts to offer and admit students who are eligible for TK or transitional kindergarten. It also deletes the requirement for district enrollment applicants to include information about healthcare options, as the law requiring such information has self-repealed, and clarifies that a student's residence is a location within the district that may be verified as part of the school admissions requirement. And then additionally, alongside of that, per AB 130, the ARs, or the administrative regulations, are also being updated to align with the revised time spans for transitional kindergarten admittance requirements.
Thank you. Any questions? This is just so we just have to approve the first reading as presented, correct? Dr. Holver? Any questions? Okay, I'd look for a motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We will take a roll call vote.
Mr. Fayette? Aye. Mrs. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Aye. Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Wonderful. We are going to now move on to the approval of the first reading of revised board policy 6144, controversial issues. And Dr. Pulver.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. Our job is to bring forward to you, as you know, we subscribe to GAMIT, which is CSBA's sample board policies, because they really do a great job of updating policies as laws or various things change. I would recommend we kind of take a look at this one a little bit differently, because most of our board policies, the revisions that we're recommending, the one that Dr. Fraser just shared, was really due to legislative changes and ed codes and things of that sort. This one's a little bit different. This one is something that last time the board policy on controversial issues was updated was 2014. It's an optional policy under CSBA. So obviously the board in the past has decided to have this policy, but CSBA has updated their sample policy. And so what we thought it would be important to bring forward to you is to just communicate to you that CSBA does have an update. Is there any, and usually the way we communicate those updates to you, since you can't even have a conversation about it until we agendize it, is through the strikeouts, the underlines, et cetera. So what I thought I would have you take a look at is you also have copies of the current policy that's in existence from 2014, along with the CSBA sample that they have provided, their most recent update to that policy. And just thoughtfully take a look at, do you think there's changes that we should be making within the policy based upon any revisions that CSBA has provided? Are there language within both? And if you think the current policy is great as is, that's also something that you can do. Again, our job is to just bring forward to you when policies are updated for your consideration.
So, we can start the discussion. I know some of us have looked at this. What I want to put forth and why I think it's important that we do look at this and really do update it a little bit is that we're in a much different environment than we were in 2014. And I do believe that things have gotten, multiple things get very controversial. Things get very political and very polarizing. And I don't think that's something that we want translated in the classroom. And I believe we have exceptionally professional teachers, but I also believe that the environment has changed. And so I think being able to look at this and come up with a policy that provides guidance and a security for our parents that and provides guidance for our professional teachers and helps be able to balance that and give both guidelines and the other and parents assurance of how these things are being handled in the classroom. I know personally that as a board member, I have strongly felt this, it is not my job for my opinion to come through at the dais. It is my job to listen to the community and to represent that of the community. And so it's not my opinion. And so I would like to make sure that we find something that kind of adopts that thought process. Should we just go, you want to just go around? You want to start with Mrs. Davidson? You want to start with, you start with Mrs. Davidson? Sure. Okay, Mrs. Davidson, what are your thoughts?
So I agree that I believe that this needs to be updated because there are word choices that, like if you look at number 2, does not tend to indoctrinate or persuade students to a particular point of view. Does not tend to that doesn't make sense to me. I don't think educators ever have the right to indoctrinate a student. So I mean, there's poor word choices that give a wrong message. And I do agree that it's too vague for our current situation. But then I think the example that's given to us needs to be gone through because it's extremely wordy and some of their word choices is pretty sort of a negative perspective on educators. And tends to figure out how to stop somebody from doing something they shouldn't do. And it's too general. It denies the professionalism of the vast majority of educators. So I would like to go through the example. I'd like us to work through the example. I don't know if we want to. Do we do it in one night?
That seems like a lot, and it's already late. Let me hear from the other board members, and then maybe Dr. Pulver can come up with a solution for how we work through this. But thank you, Mrs. Davidson. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mr. Forehand.
I too saw it very negative on educators' professionalism, and having been one, and I kind of read it with that lens. And I too would like, first of all, it's great we have first reading and talk about it. So that's great. But I too would like to take some time to get the right wording, because you're right. These are controversial times, and we got to make sure our teachers have the support they need, and the way they do it is always, in my opinion, for this district, been very well done. So.
And that our parents know there's a very clear guideline,
right,
and that we respect and believe that our teachers are professionals, but also give them those guidelines. Mrs. Catulli.
I pretty much agree that I did think that it needs to be cleaned up, and I don't think it shows the level of expertise and caring and empathy that our teachers have. But we do need to have specifics written. And I also think for the parents, it's really important about the student should be assured of the right to form and express an opinion without jeopardizing how the teachers react to them. And I really think that teachers don't pick on a child who disagrees with something they have said. I really think our teachers are more professional than that. If you've been a teacher for longer than a year, you realize that every type of human being is in your classroom. And then new ones keep coming every year. So I think that our teachers, all teachers, they take their profession seriously, respect that, and especially since they have so much power over these kids. But I know that parents and children feel intimidated by the staff members. So I think it's really important to say that students have a right to express their opinion and to be assured that they will not be penalized for having an opinion that may differ from what other people are saying. So, it's a balance, because it's a balance. We need to respect our teachers. We need to give them freedom so that our children can have critical discussions. They need to have that. They need to have the yin and yang of every issue, so that they can learn to think critically, so that they know that you just don't go to one source for all of your information, how you need to research things and verify your research. So this is crucial for their future life. But we also have to assure them that they can come up with a totally different opinion, and that will be respected, not necessarily agreed, but respected.
And I think that that's where parents, at least some of the parents that I hear these days, and I get where they're coming from, is that sometimes they feel like teachers are so passionate. I don't think the majority of human beings think that we're indoctrinating our children, but that a teacher's opinion could come through, and a child that who would lack now the ability to really know how to dissect that and pull that apart, because that's what the teacher's supposed to be doing, is teaching them how to do that process, not giving them an opinion. And like I said, I don't think the majority of our teachers do, but I think it's different times in that we need to have guidelines. Mr. Fayette.
You guys all spoke so eloquently. I love Meg's thing. It's the balance. Respect and understand that the teachers have expertise and experience, but have some kind of guide rails so that you protect the students and protect the ability to disagree and have discussions. And that's what critical thinking is, having discussions about difficult topics where there is going to be disagreement. So I agree with all what you said, but I don't know if that gave
One last thing too, we do such a good job even at the elementary level with kids being able to express different opinions, and you hear them respecting someone else's just as much as their own. So I think we're on the right track.
Mrs. Davidson, yes.
So I also think that our district is really exceptional at the staff development that you guys committed to way before I was on the board, the 5-year plan to teach teachers how to teach kids critical thinking and reflection and the ability to have discussions. And our Mrs. Reed, your department does a fabulous job of creating means for collaboration. I think the part about the controversial issues over the last few years is that some of them have hit us so hard and so fast that things have happened in classrooms across the country because there wasn't any plan. We weren't expecting them. And there may be teachers who get excited and move forward before the collaboration, before the boundaries are set, before they discuss, like I discuss with you as a fellow teacher, is this appropriate for 8th grade or would it be better in 11th grade history? Those are the conversations that this district encourages. And I think that's where everyone learns. And when some teacher steps outside of the boundaries, then that teacher should be talked with and have the opportunity to explain what happened. This document will create a lot of fear and shut down conversations if it's taken literally. So I think we just need time.
So, Dr. Pulver, what brilliant solution are you going to come up with?
Well, I don't know. I think what I would like to, I think the other thing we don't want to have happen, which can happen with various matters, but probably particularly this one, is we don't want to weaponize a board policy either or have it used in that way, because that's not the intent. But a couple things that I just thought maybe would help us to get some direction on as we take a look at this. There were a few things in the current policy. It mentions, I agree with Mrs. Davidson, where she says, "What does it mean? Does not intend to indoctrinate?" So I think that's unclear. And what I noticed, one of the differences was in the current form, it talks about teachers may express their personal view, but they should acknowledge it aloud. And then the CSBA, they don't use the word express, they say advocates. Teachers should not advocate their personal point of view, because I think the intent of the current sample is about really trying to make sure students are critical thinkers and that they're not being influenced necessarily, but they get to hear from all sides. So it doesn't, I don't know if that necessarily means they couldn't state their opinion, but I think the word advocacy was different. So I'd just like to get some tenor on how you guys feel between that slight difference to help us as we shape this.
Well, I think advocating for something means that you are, and for the lack of a better word, pushing it, right? If you are advocating for something, you are asking to agree with. And I don't think they should advocate for that. So if that's a specific question you're asking, that would be my answer.
That's one of the bigger changes that I saw.
Right.
The other that really is our practice. So I'm trying to hit the areas that I think we can already make easier. Right. Is towards the back part where it talks about when
Which
required
one?
by the sample policy.
The new one?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Okay.
When required by law, such in regards to comprehensive sexual health and HIV, that is our practice that we allow our families to opt out. Would you like to have that memorialized in the policy or not?
Yes, I think so. Well, we already do.
When allowed by law.
We do allow.
We do it. It's just not in the policy. If you look at our current one.
Well, yes, if we have a practice that isn't in our policy, then I think the practice needs to be in the policy.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I do think that there's some areas within the CSBA sample, when it talks about certain areas, that's probably already in some ways covered through professional standards that we have for teachers, et cetera. And so by maybe removing some areas there, because I think that's where it could be weaponized or tried to use against us in that realm, rather than the spirit of it. But kind of like what I thought I heard Mrs. Hill say during the president's report about, even, look, we're not teaching CRT, but we're not going to shy away from having controversial conversations, and we don't believe in banning conversation in an educational setting, that it's really about trying to promote the balance within that. So I would be happy to, I know we could have a subcommittee. We could also, I think we've gotten some, you guys could give me some feedback through written form. I know, and then we could take a look at that with our ed services and take a look at some of the changes and bring it out.
So
from
if
there.
we bring it, I think that's great. I think it's late, and I know it's really late where Mrs. Davidson is. So I think trying to wordsmith this with 5 people would be difficult. So when we bring it back a second time, does that mean we have to approve it?
No, I wouldn't recommend that.
Right.
I think I'd still first reading or just consideration. Revised first reading, because we haven't even presented a copy that you'd want to approve. Like, as I shared with this one, different than our others, we weren't suggesting you should approve this, but you should be aware when CSBA has made some updates to see if they align with your vision and your philosophy as a board.
Okay. So I think that the direction is that we'll provide Dr. Pulver feedback if we have it. I would assume on the sample policy. So we would work off of the sample, the revised sample policy, and
Either, if you like the language in the current, you can say just keep it as and just make this one tweak. Either one, just
give us your feedback. Okay.
Give us the feedback, and then I'll try to compile it back. And I can't say that it'll be at the next board meeting.
No problem.
But it'll be based upon the feedback that you give us, and then we'll take another stab at it to see if it reflects the input that the 5 of you are providing.
When would you like that feedback?
Yes, that was my question. When would you like our feedback?
I think by the end of April.
Oh, okay.
I can do that.
I can do that.
Well, we have spring break, so I want to be mindful of that for all of you as well, as at least as the target date.
Yep, that sounds great. So then we take no action on this?
No action. Mhm.
No action. So no action taken on 14.
But it has to be agendized to even have the conversation.
Absolutely. Right. Okay, great. Now we're going to go to 14D, approval of first reading of revised policy bylaw 9322, agenda meeting materials. And this is Dr. Pulver.
So this is one of those more cut and dry board policies when it really is about different languages that have occurred or updates to laws. So you can see in the track changes there, they changed certain things from when the agenda has to be posted. I think it said 3 days, and really it's about 72 hours. They wordsmith a few other areas as well. Posting on our website, our agendas. A lot of the laws that have changed, we've already implemented within our practice, but the policy itself. So CSBA has made a number of recommendations within this and cites various government codes to be in alignment with the recent changes in law.
Thank you, Dr. Pulver. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fayette?
Thank you.
Mrs. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Aye. Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
And if I forget to call for discussion, please, somebody smack me.
When we don't talk, though. That's the drawback.
We're looking at 14E, which is the adoption of a resolution for the Board of Education, school acting as a legislative body to increase the levy of special taxes within the community facilities district by 4.75. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. Every year we bring forward this resolution to increase the Mello-Roos special tax by 4.75. This year it'll be $238.45. And as a reminder, these funds are to assist us to pay our debt with our certificate of participation, our COPs.
Great. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Fayette? Aye. Mrs. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Aye. Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Great, passes 5-0. We are now on to the approval of warrants. Warrants are the district's checkbook, and we have the opportunity to go through them and to put questions in, and then we can go through the approval process. So do I have a motion? A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fayette? Aye. Mrs. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Aye. Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Great, passes 5-0. Now we're going to look at the acceptance of donations.
Yeah.
This is where our amazing community provides donations for a variety of different things throughout our district. There we go.
There it is.
Perfect, thank you. I did not fall asleep, I promise. Okay, so donations, we're looking at our donations for the last period. They come in a variety of different forms. And our total would be beautiful. Monetary donations of $21,606, and year to date almost $750,000. So we are very grateful to our community. Do I have a motion to accept our donations?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Fayette?
Oh, discussion?
Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay. There we go.
Mrs. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Aye. Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Awesome. We are now moving on to our classified personnel report, certificated personnel report, and administrative personnel report. And I would look at a motion for H, I, and J all together. And Dr. Frazier.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to take a moment to thank Celeste Ariano. She is our classified personnel technician. This will be her last report that she does for us. She accepted a job with Los Angeles County of Education. So we wish her well. It's a promotion for her. So we're super excited. She's been probably the busiest person in the HR office for the last 3 years, especially during COVID. So wanted to thank her for all of her hard work. But
That's
all
amazing.
of the reports are presented or came forward as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion?
She will be missed.
She'll be missed. That's awesome. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
No. Roll call.
Roll call, sorry.
Mr. Fayette?
Last
Aye.
one.
Mrs. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand?
Last one.
Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Last one. I got all of them except the last one. Thank you. That is our open agenda. I do not believe we need to adjourn back into closed session. So we will look at adjourning our meeting this evening. And I know that the whole board wishes everybody an amazing spring break. Can't believe it's spring break already. And we will see you at the end of April. Meeting's adjourned.